The vast emptiness of space stretched before Org as she gazed out from the observation deck of the Tren Shorin. The name, which roughly translated to beautiful library in human tongues, was fitting for the massive temple ship that had been her home for the past 3 decades. As High Mother of the Rumen aboard this vessel, Org's entire existence was dedicated to the pursuit and preservation of knowledge, a calling shared by her entire species. Org's multifaceted eyes reflected the distant glow of the Erudia homeworld, a planet teeming with life and information. The Rumen had long since surrendered to the Council of Erudia, accepting their role as subjects in exchange for the opportunity to continue their sacred mission of gathering knowledge. It was a bargain that many would consider unfavorable, but to the Rumen, it was a small price to pay for unrestricted access to the vast expanse of the Erudian Empire. As she stood there, motionless save for the slight twitching of her sensory appendages, Org felt the familiar thrum of data flowing through the ship. Every conversation, every observation, every piece of information gathered by Rumen across the galaxy was being shared and stored within the Tren Shorin's vast databases. It was a constant stream of knowledge, the lifeblood of their species and the foundation of their religion. Org's thoughts drifted to the events that had led them here. Centuries ago, when the Erudia first appeared on the galactic stage, the Rumen had recognized the futility of resistance. The Erudia were a warlike race, driven by an insatiable desire for expansion and domination. They demanded offerings from all who they subjugated and showed no mercy to those who stood against them. The Rumen, with their pacifistic nature and devotion to knowledge, had no choice but to acquiesce. And so here they were, orbiting the very heart of the empire that held them in subjugation. But to Org and her people, this was not a position of shame or defeat. It was an opportunity, a chance to observe, to learn, to understand the very essence of their conquerors. As she continued her vigil, Org's mind processed the latest influx of data from the Rumen network. Something was stirring in the far reaches of the empire. A new species had been discovered, one that the Erudia had approached with their usual demands for submission and offerings. But there was something different about these newcomers, something that made Org's sensory appendages quiver with anticipation. These beings, these humans as they called themselves, did not react as expected to the Erudia's demands. Org felt a ripple of excitement course through her being. New knowledge was on the horizon, and with it, the potential for change. As she turned her gaze back to the Erudia homeworld, Org couldn't help but wonder what offerings would these humans bring, and how would they shape the future of the galaxy. Little did she know, the answer to that question would shake the very foundations of the empire she had spent decades studying, and usher in an era of knowledge beyond her wildest dreams. Org's sensory appendages twitched with excitement as she processed the influx of data streaming through the Tren Shorin's neural network. The Erudia's discovery of humanity had sent ripples of activity through the empire, and the Rumen's vast information-gathering apparatus was working overtime to capture every detail. From her vantage point orbiting the Erudia homeworld, Org pieced together the unfolding events. The Council of Erudia, in their arrogance, had approached the humans as they had countless other species before. Their initial scans had revealed a civilization rich in resources and technology, a tempting prize for the ever-expanding empire. Send emissaries, the Council had decreed. Demand their offerings and submission. Org's multifaceted eyes flickered as she reviewed the footage of the Erudian ambassador's arrival on Earth. The humans, a species of striking diversity, had received them with a mix of curiosity and caution. But as the Erudian demands were relayed, Org noticed something she had never seen before in her centuries of observing first contact scenarios. The humans didn't cower. They didn't acquiesce. Instead, their expressions hardened, their postures straightened, and a palpable tension filled the air. The Erudian ambassador, oblivious to the shifting atmosphere, continued to list the Empire's demands, resources, technology, and a pledge of absolute loyalty to the Council. It was a familiar script, one that had served the Erudia well in their conquests across the galaxy. But the humans' response was anything but familiar. "We will consider your proposal," the human representative had said, their voice laced with an emotion Org couldn't quite identify. Was it anger, determination, or perhaps something else entirely? As Org sifted through the data, Analyzing every nuance of the interaction, she couldn't shake the feeling that the Erudia had gravely miscalculated. In their hubris, they had assumed that humanity would fall in line like so many others before them. Drawing from centuries of gathered knowledge, Org began to see patterns emerging. The human's history was fraught with conflict, yes, but also with a spirit of resistance against tyranny. They had faced extinction-level events, fought wars that spanned their entire planet, and yet had emerged stronger, more united. And now, the Erudia thought they could simply demand submission from such a species. Org's appendages quivered with a mixture of anticipation and dread. The Erudia, in their blind pursuit of expansion, had overlooked crucial data. They had failed to truly understand the species they were dealing with. As she watched the Erudian ships withdraw from Earth's orbit, awaiting the humans' response to their demands, Org couldn't help but feel that a pivotal moment in galactic history was about to unfold. The Council of Erudia, in their arrogance, had made a grave miscalculation. They had poked a sleeping giant, assuming it would yield like all the others. But Org, with her vast repository of knowledge, suspected that humanity's response would be anything but yielding. Org's entire being thrummed with anticipation as she monitored the communications channels. The tension in the galaxy was palpable, a silent storm brewing in the void between stars. Days had passed since the Erudia's demands were presented to humanity, and the Empire awaited their response with misplaced confidence. When the message finally came, it was not what anyone save perhaps Org in her deepest analysis had expected. To the Council of Erudia the transmission began, its tone cold and resolute. "We have considered your demands. Here is our response." Org's sensory appendages quivered as she processed the incoming data. Across the galaxy, on every world touched by the Erudian Empire, screens lit up with the same message. The humans, it seemed, wanted an audience. What followed was not a pledge of allegiance, nor an offering of resources. Instead, the humans delivered a scathing indictment of the Erudia's oppressive regime. They spoke of freedom, of self-determination, of the fundamental right of all sentient beings to choose their own path. But they didn't stop there. "You demand offerings," the human representative's voice rang out, a mixture of defiance and grim determination. "Very well. We shall send you offerings." Org's mind raced, correlating data from countless sources. Something was happening, something unprecedented. Across human-controlled space, military installations burst into action. Silos opened, shipyards emptied, and a terrifying array of weaponry the likes of which the galaxy had never seen was unleashed. Every single missile in humanity's arsenal was launched, a deadly swarm heading towards Erudia-inhabited planets. Conventional warheads, antimatter bombs, nuclear devices, and even experimental weapons that defied classification all were part of humanity's offering. As the reality of the situation dawned on the Empire, panic spread like wildfire. The Erudia, so long accustomed to unopposed conquest, found themselves facing an enemy that refused to bow, refused to break. Amidst the chaos, Org received a direct transmission from her human contacts. The message was brief but loaded with meaning. "To our Rumen friends, we regret the knowledge that may be lost, but such is the fitting end for an empire built on subjugation and fear. The galaxy deserves better. We intend to give it just that." Org felt a complex mixture of emotions: shock at the scale of the human response, sadness for the impending loss of life and knowledge, but also a reluctant admiration for the sheer audacity of humanity's actions. As she watched the missiles streak across space, their deadly purpose clear, Org couldn't help but marvel at the turning point she was witnessing. The humans had not merely rejected the Erudia's demands, they had declared war on the very concept of galactic subjugation. The age of the Erudia was ending, and in its wake, a new era was about to dawn, one shaped by the will of humanity. Org settled in to observe, her vast networks primed to record every detail of the monumental shift that was about to reshape the galaxy. The Rumen lived for knowledge, and she knew that the events unfolding before her would provide enough data to study for centuries to come. Org's multifaceted eyes darted from one holographic display to another, her mind processing the torrent of data flooding the Shorin's systems. The sheer scale of humanity's response was beyond anything she had ever witnessed in her centuries of observation. As the first wave of missiles entered Erudian space, Org began cataloging the arsenal with a mix of scientific curiosity and growing awe. The conventional warheads came first, a hail of kinetic bombardment weapons that streaked across space, their trajectories precisely calculated to overwhelm planetary defenses. These alone would have been devastating, but they were merely the opening salvo. Next came the antimatter weapons, their containment fields glowing with an ominous blue light. Org shuddered, knowing the destructive potential contained within each missile. A single gram of antimatter annihilating with matter would release energy equivalent to a nuclear bomb. And the humans had sent thousands. Nuclear devices followed, a technology the Erudia had long since abandoned in favor of more advanced weapons. But the humans had refined this old art to terrifying new heights. Org's sensors detected not just fission and fusion bombs, but also salted nuclear weapons designed to render entire regions uninhabitable. But it was the final wave that truly captured Org's attention. These missiles defied her considerable knowledge, their signatures unlike anything in the Rumen databases. Experimental weapons, the humans had called them, and Org could only imagine the terrible new forces they might unleash. As the arsenal approached its targets, Org's vast network of Rumen observers shared real-time data, allowing her to witness the attack from countless perspectives simultaneously. She saw Erudian fleets scramble in desperation, their weapons seeming pitiful in the face of humanity's onslaught. Planetary shields flickered and failed under the relentless bombardment. Through it all, Org couldn't help but marvel at the technical prowess on display. The precision of the targeting, the coordination of the attack, the sheer variety of weapons all spoke to a level of military technology that the Erudia had gravely underestimated. A priority message flashed across Org's consciousness, originating from a Rumen observer station near a human military command center. It contained fragments of intercepted communications. Phase 1 complete. Commencing Phase 2. Activate the Omega protocols. Org's appendages twitched in anticipation. What new surprises did humanity have in store? What further offerings would they unleash upon their would-be conquerors? As she continued to observe and record, Org realized that she was witnessing more than just the fall of an empire. This was the birth of a new galactic order, forged in the fires of human defiance and technological might. The arsenal unleashed by humanity was rewriting the very nature of interstellar conflict. And Org, true to her Rumen nature, was determined to document every moment, every detail, every revelation, for in this crucible of destruction, new knowledge was being born. Org watched in stunned silence as the Erudian Empire, a galactic constant for centuries, crumbled before her eyes. The devastating arsenal unleashed by humanity tore through planetary defenses, shattered fleets, and reduced once thriving worlds to ash and ruin. The first to fall were the outer colonies, their minimal defenses overwhelmed in a matter of hours. Org's vast network of observers reported scenes of chaos and destruction across dozens of systems simultaneously. Erudian citizens, long accustomed to being the conquerors, now found themselves facing annihilation. On the Erudian homeworld, the Council of Erudia watched in horror as their empire collapsed around them. Their frantic calls for aid went unanswered, their threats of retaliation fell on deaf ears. The mighty had fallen, and the galaxy watched in awe. Org's sensory appendages twitched ceaselessly as she processed the flood of information. She felt a deep sadness for the loss of life, the destruction of countless artifacts and records that could never be recovered. Yet she couldn't deny the fascination she felt at witnessing such a monumental shift in the galactic order. As the human onslaught continued, Org noticed something unexpected. Other subjugated races, long cowed by Erudian might, began to rise up. Inspired by humanity's defiance, they seized the opportunity to break free from their oppressors. What had begun as a human retaliation was quickly becoming a galaxy-wide revolution. Org received transmissions from Rumen ships across the galaxy, each sharing unique perspectives on the unfolding events. From the agrarian worlds of the Xinabi system, the Erudian overseers flee as their weapons turn to ash. The Xinabi reclaim their fields, their songs of freedom echoing across the plains. From the industrial powerhouse of Clarke's prime factory, workers overthrow their Erudian masters. Production lines once dedicated to imperial war machines now churn out tools of reconstruction. From the scholastic moons of Lumina, hidden archives of pre-Erudian knowledge emerge from secret vaults. Scholars weep as they rediscover their lost heritage. Each report added to the tapestry of revolution that Org was meticulously weaving in her mind. The fall of the Erudia was more than just the end of an empire. It was the birth of 100 newfound freedoms, 1,000 reclaimed identities. As the dust of conflict began to settle, Org turned her attention back to the humans. Their military might had been proven beyond doubt, but what would they do with their victory? Would they simply replace the Erudia as the new galactic superpower, or did they have something else in mind? The answer came in a galaxy-wide broadcast from the human leadership. To all sentient beings who have suffered under Erudian rule, the chains of oppression are broken. We do not seek to replace one empire with another. Instead, we extend an invitation to all races to join us in building a galactic community based on mutual respect, cooperation, and the fundamental rights of all sentient beings. Org felt a surge of excitement course through her being. The humans were not just conquerors, they were revolutionaries, visionaries. The potential for new forms of governance, new alliances, new ways of exploring and understanding the universe, it was all suddenly possible. As she observed the remnants of the once mighty Erudian fleet limping towards unconditional surrender, Org knew she was witnessing the final moments of one era and the dawning of another. The fall of the Erudian Empire would be recorded in history as the moment everything changed. As the echoes of battle faded and the dust of fallen empires began to settle, Org found herself in a maelstrom of conflicting emotions. The High Mother of the Tren Shorin, the beautiful library, gazed upon the aftermath of humanity's retribution with a mixture of sorrow and fascination. Org's multifaceted eyes dimmed as she contemplated the vast troves of knowledge lost in the conflict. Centuries of Erudian culture, technology, and history had been reduced to atomic ash in the blink of an eye. Entire planetary archives, libraries housing the collective wisdom of conquered civilizations, and databanks filled with scientific discoveries all gone, scattered to the cosmic winds. Such loss, Org murmured, her voice a soft hum in the quiet of her observation deck. So much that we will never know, never understand. Yet even as she mourned, Org's insatiable curiosity, the very essence of what it meant to be human, began to stir. For in this destruction, in this cataclysmic reshaping of the galactic order, new avenues of study were opening up. Org initiated a priority transmission to all human vessels. Attention, all knowledge seekers. We stand at a pivotal moment in galactic history. While we mourn the loss of irretrievable information, we must not lose sight of the unprecedented opportunity before us. Engage all data collection systems. Every fragment of information, every observation, no matter how small, must be preserved. The fall of the Erudian Empire and the rise of humanity will be studied for millennia to come. We must ensure that future generations have a complete record of these events. Across the galaxy, human ships sprang into action. Some ventured into the still cooling ruins of Erudian worlds, their crews braving radiation and unstable terrain to salvage what artifacts and data storage devices they could. Others positioned themselves to observe the emerging power dynamics among the newly liberated races. Org herself directed the Tren Shorin to the outskirts of Earth's solar system. If humanity was to be the architect of this new galactic era, then understanding them, their history, their cultures, their hopes and fears would be crucial. As she processed the incoming data, Org began to see patterns emerging. The humans, for all their military might, seemed genuinely committed to their vision of a more equitable galaxy. They were already dispatching aid to the worlds most devastated by the conflict, sharing medical and agricultural technologies without demand for compensation. Fascinating, Org mused. They possess the power to dominate, yet they choose to elevate. What drives such a species? What can we learn from them? The human databases began to swell with new information. Alongside the technical specifications of human weaponry and the geopolitical analyses of the post-Erudian power vacuum, Org ensured that human art, literature, and philosophy were given equal importance. For in these, she sensed, lay the true essence of humanity's strength. As the standard galactic day drew to a close, Org received a transmission that made her appendages quiver with excitement. The humans had extended an invitation to the human, seeking their aid in establishing a galactic repository of knowledge, a library to dwarf all libraries, open to all sentient species. In that moment, Org understood that while much had been lost in the fall of the Erudian Empire, even more stood to be gained. The Rumens' sacred mission to gather and preserve knowledge would not only continue but flourish in ways they had never imagined. The galaxy was entering a new age of discovery and cooperation, and the Rumen, with their vast archives and unquenchable thirst for understanding, would be at the very heart of it all. Org turned her gaze once more to the stars, her mind alight with the possibilities that lay ahead. The pursuit of knowledge, she realized, was about to become more thrilling and more vital than ever before. Org stood motionless on the observation deck of the Tren Shorin, her multifaceted eyes fixed upon the smoldering remnants of what was once the Erudian homeworld. The planet's surface, once a tapestry of sprawling cities and military installations, now glowed with the angry red of cooling magma and the sickly green of radioactive fallout. "Such is the price of hubris," Org murmured, her voice a mixture of sadness and awe. As the Rumen High Mother watched, the last vestiges of the once mighty Erudian fleet blinked out of existence, some fleeing to the far reaches of unknown space, others succumbing to the relentless human pursuit. The empire that had dominated the galaxy for centuries had been reduced to ashes in a matter of days. Yet, even as Org mourned the loss of knowledge and life, she couldn't suppress a tremor of excitement that ran through her sensory appendages. The galaxy was entering uncharted territory, and for a species dedicated to the pursuit of knowledge, there could be no greater thrill. A priority transmission from Earth caught Org's attention. The humans, it seemed, were wasting no time in reshaping the galactic landscape. The message outlined plans for a new interstellar alliance, one built on principles of mutual respect, shared knowledge, and collective defense. To all sentient species of the galaxy, the transmission began. We extend an invitation to join us in forging a new path. The age of empires and subjugation is over. Let us build a future where the pursuit of knowledge and the betterment of all sentient life are our highest goals. Org felt a surge of appreciation for the humans' vision. It aligned closely with the Rumen philosophy, yet it carried with it a dynamism and ambition that her own people sometimes lacked. As she processed the information, Org's mind raced with the possibilities. The humans' technological prowess, combined with their spirit of exploration and their apparent commitment to galactic cooperation, promised an era of discovery unlike any other. "Attention all Rumen vessels," Org broadcast across the species' neural network. "We stand at the threshold of a new age. Our mission to gather and preserve knowledge remains unchanged, but our horizons have expanded beyond measure. Prepare for an influx of new information, new philosophies, new sciences. The humans and their allies will need our expertise, and we, in turn, will learn from them." Across the galaxy, Rumen ships adjusted their courses, ready to take their place in this new order. Some headed to the former Erudian worlds, prepared to assist in the monumental task of reconstruction and rehabilitation. Others made their way to Earth and its colonies, eager to study humanity up close. Org herself set the Tren Shorin on a course for the newly established galactic capital, a neutral space station, where representatives from all allied species would meet to shape the future of their shared civilization. As the ship's engines hummed to life, Org allowed herself a moment of reflection. The Erudian Empire, for all its flaws, had been a known quantity, a constant in the equation of galactic politics. Its fall marked the end of an era, the closing of one vast chapter in the history of the cosmos. But as one chapter ended, another began. Humanity, with its fighting and enduring spirit and surprising capacity for both destruction and creation, was poised to write that new chapter. And the Rumen, with their vast repositories of knowledge and their unquenchable thirst for understanding, would be there to record every word, every deed, every triumph and setback. Org's eyes gleamed with anticipation as the Tren Shorin entered faster than light travel. A greater empire was indeed rising from the ashes of the old, not an empire of conquest and subjugation, but one of cooperation and shared discovery. It promised more knowledge than the Rumen had ever dreamed possible. As the stars streaked by outside the ship's viewports, Org allowed herself a small gesture that, in human terms, might have been called a smile. The Council of Erudia had demanded offerings, and humanity had indeed sent them offerings of fire and retribution. Thank you so much for listening to this story. I hope you loved it. Please remember to subscribe if you did like it so you can see more videos like this. And please give us a like and a comment too. I'll see you in the next one.